Hello and welcome to Hop On Board, a channel for board game how to plays, playthroughs, and discussions. My name is Chris Flores, and in the inaugural episode of this channel, I'll be teaching you the 2 to 5 player rules for Molly House, designed by Joe Kelly, Cole Wehrlegig, illustrated by Rachel Ford, and published by Wehrlegig Games, the publisher of 2 of my other favorite games you might be able to guess, PAX Premier 2nd Edition and John Company 2nd Edition. Let's get it to the table. London was the place to be in the early 1700s, and in the back rooms of unsuspecting establishments, an underground community of people known as Mollies was being born. These defiers of traditional gender norms and sexuality hosted secret festivities in the forms of masquerades, weddings, balls, and christenings utilizing gin. In Molly House, you take on the role of a Molly in this community, attending festivities and moving about the board acquiring vice cards. These vice cards you'll play at the aforementioned festivities while simultaneously evading the wicked grasp of the Society for the Reformation of Manners, an early police force that is looking to put an end to anything that strays from what they deem acceptable behavior. At these festivities, you will score joy, but not only for yourself. It is crucial that you also score joy for the community as a whole. If you wish for the community to survive, the community's joy must remain above a specific threshold in collaboration with the players. All this strolling for vice cards and throwing festivities is not without risk. As you throw festivities and accumulate joy, players will also gain reputation among the 4 Molly houses while discarding cards in one of 2 discard piles. The safe pile, good discard, and the gossip pile, bad discard. Cards discarded into the gossip pile increase the risk of the houses getting raided at the end of the 5 potential weeks or rounds of the game. Players with the highest reputation in a raided Molly house will face indictments to be resolved at the end of the game. Be wary of these indicted players. They are also given the opportunity to turn informer to the society, which if played successfully can keep a player eligible for a nasty victory betraying their community. While the point of playing this game is to have fun, it's important to note that a great deal of historical research went into this. The board and every vice card is truly a work of art, with the Mollies and threat cards depicting real people from the period. Similarly to PAX Premier and John Company, Molly House tackles a sensitive moment in history beautifully, doing something that I think historical games are meant to do more than anything else, especially if they hope to be good, and that is to inspire empathy. Let's get it set up and learn how to play. Begin by placing the board and the playmat in the middle of the play area, and then place the following pieces next to the board, ideally within reach of all players. The cubes, house rated, and dangerous cruising tokens, the multiplier tokens, the draw tokens, and the dice. 4 d10s and 2 d6s. Once these are all within reach, it's time to set up the vice deck. The vice deck contains 3 types of cards. The first type of card is a desire card. Desire cards each have a value 1 through 9, are suited in either cups, hearts, pentacles, or fans, and have a joy value denoted by the number of stars shown below the suit. A second type of card is a threat card. Threat cards can either be a rogue or a constable. They are not to be ignored if players wish to build a thriving community. Both types of threat cards have a specific effect at festivities which will be covered soon. The third type of card is a Molly card. There are also 2 types of Mollies, a Jack and a Queen. Mollies score joy for the community in specific circumstances and, when part of a player's reputation, offer scoring bonuses to players that add desires to their reputation of the same suit, again something that will be covered later. Setting up the vice deck only requires adjusting which numbers of desire cards will be included in the game. A 2-player game only uses the 1s through 6s. For a 3-player game, which is what we're setting up for in this video, add the 7s. For a 4-player game, add the 8s. And for a 5-player game, add the 9s. Shuffle the necessary cards and place the vice deck next to this black line. Fill the 4 market cards face up, and then create the gossip pile by placing the next card face down here. Remember, going forward, this is where cards go to contribute to a collapse of the community. Then place the community joy marker on the 0 space of the joy track and the golden week marker on the space indicating week 1. Place the shuffled major and minor indictments in their own respective decks to the side of the board. Shuffle the items and deal 1 face up to each shop site. Place the remaining item deck near the board, then randomly give a player the candelabra. They will begin the game as first player. Each player now takes a matching player board, pawn, and 4 encounter tokens, 3 labeled Loyal and 1 labeled Informer. Keep the encounter tokens face down during the game, but you may look at your own at any time. Each player is then dealt 4 cards in a 3 to 5 player game, and 5 cards in a 2-player game. Each player will then place their joy marker on the 0 space of the joy track with the community joy marker. Each player will now select a card from their hand and place it in their reputation to the left of their player card, face down. Everyone reveals their face down card simultaneously and places their pawn on the molly house of the same suit. The purple player has played a fan card and will begin the game at Miss Muffs. The yellow player has played a Pentacles card and will begin the game at Mother Claps. The green player has played a Cups card and will begin the game at Julius Caesar Taylor's. If the Vice card is a Desire card, like the purple player has chosen, the player scores the joy shown on the card. If the card is a Threat card, like the yellow player has chosen, it is added to the face-up safe pile. Remember, this is the good discard pile and it can be inspected by any player at any time. If the card is a Molly, like the green player has chosen, nothing else happens. And now it's time to play. Before we get into taking your turn, there are 2 points that I want to address now. First, you may say anything you want about the cards in your hand at any point, but you may not directly show anyone your cards outside of playing them at a festivity. Second, understand that this game starts out feeling like a co-op until it's definitely not a co-op. When players are given the opportunity to turn Informer, know that the house they placed an encounter token at might actually be a benefit to them if it's raided later in the game. Now let's bring back some roll and move. 3 boots, nice. A player's turn begins by rolling the 2d6s. The 2d6 are identical, 3 faces showing 1 boot, 2 faces showing 2 boots, and 1 face showing a market discard icon. After rolling, a player will first resolve any market discard shown before moving. For each market discard rolled, the farthest card from the Vice deck is discarded. Desire cards discarded in this way are placed into the safe pile, and Mollies and Threats into the Gossip pile. When a Threat card is market discarded into the Gossip pile, like Jonathan Perry, the Rogue of Fans, determine who is the most infamous player in the Threat card suit. The most infamous in a suit is the player whose cards in their reputation matching the suit add to the highest sum, with Mollies counting as 10. This player is now exposed. They must discard all of the cards in their reputation matching the Threat card to the Gossip pile and replace them with cubes of the same color. Players tied for most infamous are all exposed, and if no players have any cards in their reputation matching the Threat card, no one is exposed. In this example, because a fan card was gossiped, the purple player is the only player with a fan card in their reputation, so this card will now be placed into the Gossip pile and replaced with 1 green cube of permanent reputation in fans. After resolving or not resolving market discards, move your pawn. The player counts the total number of boot icons on 1 or both dice and moves that number of sites in either direction without backtracking. Note that if a player rolled a market discard, they may choose to stay at their current site. If 2 market discards are rolled, you are picked up by a fancy fellow in his carriage and may move to any site on the board. When a player has reached their destination for their turn, they must take one of 6 actions, which we will get into shortly. After a player's action is resolved, the market is refilled and the active player checks their hand size, discarding their hand down to 6 cards, with discarded cards privately going into the Gossip pile. Play then continues clockwise. As we transition into the 6 actions a player can take, it's important to understand why throwing a festivity will be covered first. It is the most complex, and it is the meat of the game, and I want players to understand the mechanics of a festivity because, in my opinion, knowing those will help you understand why you may or may not want to take one of the other 5 actions. Note on the player boards that throwing a festivity is the top action under the category for site actions. This simply means the action must be carried out at a specific site on the board. To throw a festivity, the current player must be at an open molly house and must have at least 2 cards in their hand. It is the yellow player's turn, and with their roll, they are able to move to Miss Muffs and throw a festivity. At the beginning of a festivity, the party is brought to order and the active player will claim the candelabra to indicate that they are the festivity runner. Then the card game is played. In a festivity, 2 rounds of cards are played, or 3 rounds in a 2-player game. The first card played in a festivity is pulled from the vice deck, representing a card played by the community. Then the festivity runner will play a card, noting that they must play a card in every round of a festivity with play proceeding clockwise. A player may either pass or play on their turn, but if they pass, they may not re-enter the festivity in a later round. If a player plays a rogue, they may choose its value from 0 to 9 indicated with a d10. For example, I could play Thomas Newton, assign the card a value of 4 with this d10, and now the card is equivalent to a 4 of pentacles, but still has no joy value. If the community draws a rogue from the vice deck, assign its value randomly by rolling the d10. After all cards in a festivity have been played, determine the best set of 4 cards that can be scored from among all cards played using these rankings. The best set that can be scored is a surprise ball, made up of 4 sequential cards of the same suit shown here by the 4, 5, 6, and 7 of hearts. The second best set is a christening, consisting of 1 queen and 3 cards of the same value, shown here with the Queen of Pentacles, the 2 of Pentacles, the 2 of Fans, and the 2 of Cups. The third best set is a dance. This hand consists of a jack and 3 cards of sequential value that do not have to be suited, shown here by the Jack of Cups, the 3 of Hearts, the 4 of Cups, and the 5 of Pentacles. If the best set can be made multiple ways, higher value desire cards take priority, and if the best possible set can be made with multiple cards, the festivity runner then decides which specific cards will be selected. If the players are unsuccessful at making a surprise ball, a christening, or a dance, then a quiet gathering occurs. The 4 lowest desire cards will make up the winning set, ignoring rogues. Remember that constables are always assigned a value of 0, denoted in the bottom left of their card. Therefore, they will always take part in a quiet gathering. So let's clear the playmat and play out the yellow player's festivity for an example before moving on to scoring. Note that a festivity will not actually look like this. I've only put the pawns here to help indicate which players are playing which cards. If you'll remember from the setup of this festivity, the community opened by playing the 5 of Cups, and now play proceeds to the yellow player because they are the festivity runner. The yellow player looks at their hand and thinks, well, I have a jack, a 6, and a 7, the 3 cards I could play just to make this a dance all on my own, but I can only play 2 cards. The yellow player gauges interest of the purple player and the green player in making a dance. They both indicate they have cards that can help, and so the yellow player begins setting this up by playing the 6 of Fans. The purple player obliges and happily throws in the 7 of Fans. There are now 3 sequential cards, and all that they would need in order to make this a dance is a jack. Play proceeds to the green player, who is now a little discouraged because the only card they have that can contribute to a dance is a 4, which would not be included, being that it is lower than all 3 of these cards, but they do have another 7. They could play the 7, knowing that it could cause some tension between them and the purple player, forcing the yellow player to choose one of them, only one of their 7s to be involved in the dance, if that is what happens. The green player decides to take this risk and throws in a yellow 7. Play now goes back to the community for the second round of play, and the Queen of Hearts comes out on the table. For those of you that may see what has already happened, you know that the script has been flipped. There is now only 1 card needed to make this a christening, a better hand than a dance. The yellow player sees this and thinks, wow, well, opportunity has really struck here. I will happily throw in my 7 of Cups to complete this christening. Queen and 3 7s. And now everyone is included in the winning hand. Everybody's happy. Play still passes on to the purple player if there's something they want to try and do. They look at their hand and are happy with what's on the table. They pass. Play proceeds to the green player, who also passes. And now the best hand created is a christening, a queen with 3 7s, all players contributing 1 card to the winning hand. Now that all players are back at their original sites, let's use the festivity we just played through to cover scoring. First, all cards from the winning hand are added to the reputation of the player who played them, and it is scored. Each player contributed a 7 to the winning hand. 7 score 4 joy, so each player's joy marker will move up 4 on the joy track. The community contributed a queen. Whenever the community plays a Molly card that is part of the winning hand, it scores 4 joy for the community. This is a joy value that cannot be applied to players who contribute a Molly to the winning hand. Any cards that the community plays that are part of the winning hand are moved to the safe pile. Before moving on to the next part of a festivity, let's consider the possibility of a threat being scored in this particular festivity. Let's have Thomas Newton, the Rogue of Pentacles, revisit with an assigned value of 7, since we just scored a christening with 3 7s. If chosen as part of the winning set, the players have foiled a threat. This is great. The threat card will then be added to the safe pile after all other cards in the selected set have been resolved and scored. The player that played the threat card now adds all cards in their reputation matching the suit of the threat card to the safe pile. So say the green player had played Thomas Newton. They would then add this card, because it is a pentacle, to the safe pile. If the threat card had been played by the community and selected, all players do this. Foiling a threat triggers a rule called the Pride Rule. All players who add cards to the safe pile because of a foiled threat now have the option to take a matching cube of permanent reputation for each card they added to the safe pile, not including the threat card itself. Therefore, the green player now has the option to take 1 yellow cube of permanent reputation, which they do. Remember that this rule may not be carried out partially. It is all or nothing. The festivity runner decides the order in which threats are foiled in case multiple threats are in the selected hand. Let's recap the festivity. First, we brought the party to order. Second, we played cards. And third, we have scored the selected set appropriately. It is now time to generate gossip. The remaining cards are now added to the gossip pile, one at a time. Players draw a card from the vice deck for each of their cards that is added to the gossip pile. In our example, the yellow player drew 1 card, and no cards are drawn to replace those played by the community. If the vice deck is empty at this time, players may take draw tokens instead to be redeemed at the end of the week. Players may be exposed at this time if threats are sent to the gossip pile. A player's threat card added to the gossip pile only exposes that player, but a threat card played by the community will expose all players. The fifth and final step in a festivity is scoring joy bonuses for the community and the festivity runner. The community scores 3 bonus joy if a surprise ball occurred, 2 bonus joy for a christening, 1 bonus joy for a dance, and loses 1 joy if a quiet gathering occurred. The festivity runner scores bonus joy equal to their reputation at the Molly house the festivity occurred at if a surprise ball, christening, or dance occurred, and they lose the same amount of joy if a quiet gathering occurred. In our example, the community scores 2 bonus joy for a christening happening, and our festivity runner, the yellow player, scores no bonus joy because their only reputation is in cups, and the festivity was thrown at Miss Muffs, the Molly house suited in fans. And that's all there is to know about a festivity. Now let's get into the 3 basic actions before covering the remaining site actions. The first basic action is Indulge. When taking the Indulge action, take a card from the market into your hand that matches the color of your current site. Shop sites are colorless, so no indulging here. So in this example, it's the purple player's turn, and they roll 1 and 2 boots. They'll use the 2 boot to move under the Royal Exchange, and then indulge by taking the 4 of fans into their hand. At the end of their turn, the market refills. The second basic action is Lie Low. This is a simple draw from the vice deck into the player's hand and can be done at any site. It's now the green player's turn, and with this roll, they will move 1 space on Nasuki Bevels and Lie Low, drawing the top card into their hand. The final basic action, Accuse, will be covered once we know a bit more about encounter tokens and the end-of-week procedures. The second site action is Cruise. Taking the Cruise action requires being at a cruising ground, the sites flanking either side of a Molly house. After moving to a cruising ground, a player may place a matching desire card to their reputation, then draw cards equal to their new reputation in that color up to a maximum of 4 cards. Remember, Adding a card to your reputation when you already have a molly of the same color in your reputation will trigger its scoring bonus. 2 bonus joy for a jack, 3 bonus joy for a queen, and 5 if you have both. In this example, the yellow player rolls and moves to more fields, a green cruising ground. They cruise, adding the 1 of fans to their reputation. They have the jack of fans in their reputation, earning them 2 bonus joy immediately. The yellow player now has 3 points of reputation in fans, 2 from cards, and 1 cube of permanent reputation, so they will draw 3 cards. The final sight action is shop. If a player ends their movement at a shop, they may take the item at the shop to their player board, and then perform a market discard as though they had just rolled one on the movement dice. A player may hold 2 items at a time, and if they choose to shop while already having 2 items, they must discard either the card they just picked up or one already in their inventory. It's the purple player's turn. Let's say they also roll 3, getting them to Noble Street. They decide to shop, taking the Dress of Pentacles into their inventory, and then they will perform a market discard. At the beginning of a player's turn, if the Vice deck is empty, it is the end of the current week. The active player, let's say it's the purple player, takes the candelabra, and the end-of-week phases are now resolved. First, players reveal threats. Players reveal all threat cards in their hand and add them to the gossip pile. Revealing any number of threat cards earns a player a single draw token. As players reveal threats and add them to the gossip pile, that player will be exposed in the matching suit. In our example, the purple player and the yellow player discarded the constables of cups and fans respectively. The purple player will now take a blue cube of reputation, and the yellow player will take 2 green cubes of reputation. Then the society investigates. Shuffle the gossip pile and add 1/3 rounded down of these cards to the safe pile. Our gossip pile has 19 cards in it. 6 would be 1/3 rounded down. Evidence against the Molly houses is now gathered using these cards. Reveal the gossip pile and multiply the total number of threat cards in a suit by the combined number of Mollies and Desire cards in the same suit. This product is the amount of evidence generated against the matching Molly house. In our example, no evidence is generated in Hearts because there are no rogues or constables. There is 4 evidence generated in blue, 2 threat cards times 2 desire cards. There is 1 evidence generated in yellow, 1 threat times 1 desire card. And there is a whopping 8 evidence generated in green, 2 threat cards times 4 desire cards plus Molly. Next, check for raids. Open Molly houses with 7 or more evidence are raided, so in our game, the Molly House of Fans. The matching house raided token is placed on the Molly house, and the dangerous cruising tokens placed on the adjacent cruising sites. Quick side note that festivities may no longer be held at a raided Molly house, but cruising may still occur at a dangerous cruising site. A player taking the cruise action at a dangerous cruising site will resolve the action as normal, but must add the card they just played to the gossip pile and gain 1 matching cube of reputation. 7 of the house's evidence cubes are now returned to the supply. At the end of a raid, the player with the most reputation at the matching house gains a major indictment, and the player with the second most at the matching house gains a minor indictment. Currently, the yellow player has the most reputation in fans with a score of 3. Purple player has the second most with a score of 2. Therefore, the yellow player will gain a major indictment, and the purple player a minor indictment. When tied for most or second most reputation, all tied players will gain a major or minor indictment respectively. Players with no reputation at a raided house are not considered. Keep indictments gained face down in your player area, but a player may look at their own at any time. If indictment cards run out, players who would have gained an indictment will either lower their joy by 4 for a minor and 8 for a major indictment. Joy may not go below 0. Players then check for game end. First, check for community infiltration. The game ends in community infiltration if all 4 Molly houses have been raided, or if a raided Molly house has 7 or more evidence cubes on it. Then check for community survival. The game ends in community survival if the community joy marker is at or has passed the required joy threshold for your player count. If neither infiltration or survival conditions have been met, and it is the 5th week of play, the game ends in community atrophy and nobody wins. When a game end condition has been met, skip the remaining end of week phases and move directly into final scoring. Otherwise, carry on end of week phases by encountering the society. Encountering the society requires all players who just gained indictment cards to select one of their encounter tokens and place it face down at the nearest open Molly house, choosing the clockwise house if tied for distance. You may have more than one encounter token at a single Molly house, and a player may skip this step if all of their encounter tokens are already on the board. Finally, players perform end of week cleanup. Shuffle all vice cards, leaving those in players' hands, reputation, and the market alone. This shuffle deck will be the vice deck for the next week of play. Deal one card to the gossip pile, face down, and refill the market if needed. Starting with the player with the candelabra, each player will draw one card for each of their draw tokens, returning them for the supply. Discard any items remaining on shop sites and deal a new item to each shop site. Advance the week marker to the next week, and the player with the candelabra resumes play. Before we cover the endgame and victory conditions, and now that we have a better understanding of encounter tokens and how they come into play, let's backtrack for just a moment and go over the last action, Accuse. To take the Accuse action, you must be sharing your site with another player. You may accuse that player by revealing one of their face-down encounter tokens anywhere on the board. If the token shows Loyal, the active player's joy is lowered by 3. If the token shows Informer, then the active player and the community both score 3 joy, and the accused player has now become a Revealed Informer. The Revealed Informer must immediately discard all cards in their reputation matching the house with their Informer token, and they will now play under the following labels. A Revealed Informer is considered a social pariah. At the end of their turn, when discarding excess cards, their cards must go to the safe pile instead of the gossip pile. A Revealed Informer is also considered a known threat. After the winning set of cards at a festivity is scored, a Revealed Informer will add cards in their reputation, matching their Informer token to the safe pile. This must happen before gossip is generated at a festivity. Being a known threat also means that a Revealed Informer will never reveal threat cards from their hand that match their Informer token during the Reveal Threats phase at the end of week. Last, a Revealed Informer is unwelcome. They may no longer throw festivities at the Molly house with their Informer token, and they may no longer cruise at the adjacent cruising sites. They must pass at any festivity thrown at that Molly house, with their turns being replaced by an additional community card. They may not play items at these festivities either. We've now covered all the gameplay rules, and it's finally time to jump into game end and victory resolutions. If the end of week check for game end results in community infiltration, all players will reveal their encounter tokens. Players that did not play an Informer token and players that played an Informer token at a Molly house that is still open are found guilty and hanged. They will flip their joy marker over to its hanged side with a noose. Players with an Informer token at a raided house then set their joy to 0. These Informers will now score 2 victory points for every cube of evidence at their Informer token's house, plus 2 more victory points for each point of reputation of all other players in the same suit. They will then subtract 1 point for each point of reputation they have across all suits. In this community infiltration example, all 4 Molly houses were raided, and the purple player is now the only player eligible for victory after revealing the only Informer token. The yellow and green player were hanged, and the purple player, now dead inside, tallies their points from 0. They scored 8 points for the 4 cubes of yellow evidence at Mother Claps, 10 points for the 5 total points of yellow reputation between the green player and the yellow player, and then they subtract 8 points for their 8 total points of reputation among all suits for a final winning score of 10 victory points, not joy. Sneaky, sneaky. I've reset the board slightly to show a community survival resolution. If the game ends in community survival, all players now reveal their indictment cards along with their encounter tokens. Then, identify successful informers. Remember, a player is considered a successful informer if their Informer token is at a raided Molly house. That player discards all of their indictments and removes any loyal tokens they have on the board. Then, failed informers are prosecuted. If a player's Informer token is at an open Molly house, they will gain 1 major indictment. Then, players score for their loyalty. All players score 2 joy for each of their loyal tokens at an open house. The last part of community survival is resolving indictments. In turn order, players with at least 1 indictment go on trial, resolving their indictment cards in any order. To resolve an indictment, roll a 10-sided die and lower joy by the amount indicated on the card. If the result is a noose icon, the player is hanged, flips their joy marker to the noose side, and is ineligible for victory. The player with the most joy that has not been hanged wins. Tied players share victory. In this community survival example, the purple player is once again a successful informer. They discard their 2 indictment cards, and their loyalty token at the green molly house is discarded. No players were failed informers, so no one gains a major indictment. The yellow player now scores 2 bonus joy for having a loyal token at the molly house of hearts, the only open molly house. As it stands, the green player is in first place with 35 joy, the yellow player in second with 32 joy, and the purple player at last with 26 joy. But indictments must still be resolved. In turn order, the purple player would resolve indictments first, but because they were a successful informer, their indictments have been discarded. Play passes to the green player, who suffers a loss of 7 joy after resolving a minor and major indictment for a final score of 28. It is now up to the yellow player, who is facing 2 major indictments. Their first roll loses them 3 joy, keeping them in the lead, but they are convicted on their major indictment card and hanged, making the green player the winner. Remember that if neither community infiltration or survival are triggered, and it is the end of the 5th week of play, the game ends in community atrophy and nobody wins. And that is how you play Molly House, the game I have affectionately coined as Wehrlegig's party game. With this being my first video, I would really love for you to let me know in the comments below what you liked and didn't like, whether you'd like to see any sort of playthrough at different player counts or further discussion on Molly House, and if there are any games in the pipeline that you would like to see me cover or teach in this format. I wanted to give a shout out to Fred Serval from the Homo Ludens channel, Sam from the Lord of the Board channel, and Drew Worley from Wehrlegig Games for allowing me to share this with their Discord communities at release. Other things that would score a lot of joy around here would include getting some likes, subscribing, and turning on notifications for the channel. Keep getting games to your table, and encourage others to hop on board.